Alright guys, so I bought myself a new tool for this. This is a Chief die angle grinder, and it's from Harbor Freight. It's their higher end pneumatic line. It was $24 or $23 after a 20% off coupon, and then I bought the thin cutting blades, the 3-inch discs here, along with the adapter kit from Chief to use these discs on this angle grinder. So with this, you can kind of get up in there and clear everything nicely. And for the Dremel, I bought little diamond cutting blades for that to see if I can kind of square off the edges with that. But primarily I'm going to be making the long cuts with this. And you can see, before I make the cut, this is a good guide on where to go. You can see the 2 bolts poking already through the car, and those are on the rear. You just need to cut the slot to get to the one up front and slide in your plate. So you can see where the top is pretty clearly. There are people that cut this tab down and out of the way. I'm not sure about that just yet. I may have to get the angle to get it in there, but I'm going to try to get in behind it and cut the slot first. Alright, so I'm going to go ahead and make my first incision here. Alright, so I bought a set of these diamond rotary cutting discs at Harbor Freight. They're very, very tiny for the Dremel, and this is how big they are, full size. You get, like, what is it, 5 of them in a box? I'm very impressed with how durable they are. I've only used one so far, and they're so thin and so hard that they seem to cut a lot better and quicker than the pneumatic 3-inch grinding wheel. Those things slice through this like butter, and it's a very fine cut. Now what my plan is here, as you'll see, I got the slot cut, just the top and the sides connected to it. I'm going to stick a flathead screwdriver in there and bend it down and try to slide the plate in, and then I'm going to try to bend this back up towards the plate, and seeing how there's already a decent gap there, I should hammer it back, and it should be close to sealing up that plate when I get it in there. And you won't have to expanding foam a giant cavity and, you know, undercoat over it and whatnot. You'll only have a tiny crack to fill. And I feel like I haven't seen anyone else do it that way. That's the way I'm going to try to do it. Now, when you make this cut, you want to get it as close to the top. As you can see in there, you see the frame, the top horizontal part of the frame above this, and you want to stay perfectly level with that the whole way across. As you can see in there, it's very hard to see, but the gray primer is the frame in there. So what I did when I finished the cut is I took this little nail punch and stuck it up on the edge and hit it with a screwdriver to bend this edge flat up against the frame, because before it, had a nice curve to it to follow the body here. But I punched that up, bent it all flat, tried to scrape some of the undercoating off. Like there's a little bit right here. But I'm going to try to bend that down now and avoid cutting a huge piece out. So let's see how it turns out, guys. Alright, so we just did a test fit, and it seems to fit in there just fine. I had to, as you can see, I had to widen it just a little bit, so when you're going to make your cut, make sure you go like an 1/8 inch wider than the plate, just to give yourself a little clearance, and to make a little extra of a cut up there too. But now I noticed that I'm going to have to notch out a little more of this to get it flat with the top up here, because when you put in the plate and line it up, as you can see here, let me get better lighting for you guys. So as you can see here, it sticks out about that far, so you're going to need to cut a little bit more of the seam here and make it flat with the top of the rest, and then this thing will be able to be bolted down. The cut here is complete. I notched that back a little bit further, and now the plate slides in pretty freely. It's going to sit just about like that, so I'm going to mark it to cut off this edge a little bit that protrudes so far into the fender. I'm not sure why they don't, cut that off from the factory or just redesign the plate from when they laser cut it. It's really no extra work for them just to hit a different program on the CNC, but not a big deal. I'll just take care of it myself, and I'm just going to get the measurement of where I have to cut, but that's how it's going to fit in there. It's going to poke out just about that much. When I hammer the sheet metal back, it looks like the only thing that might interfere a little bit is the bolt up there. I may have to like bend it underneath that, and it won't come out super clean, but we'll see what I can do. Alright, so the roll bar is officially bolted in the car. I did the 10mm nut first, tightened it down first to push this back as far as I could, and then I tightened the 9/16 bolts on top. I did the front 6 first with the backing plates in there, and then I did the rear 6. One thing I did before I tightened it down is I used automotive primer on everything on both surfaces. All the raw metal above the plate right now is coated with primer, so that when I go ahead and bend this piece back up, use some seam sealer, and then undercoat over this, there will be zero exposed metal anymore. And as you can see back here is the other plate. So this is coming along really well. As you can see, I only have to bend this back maybe 1/4 inch. I notched out a little radius there in front of that right side bolt towards the center of the car, because you have to notch it out if you want to bend it past the bolt. Did that on both sides. And yeah, so this is just a look around to see where everything kind of lands in the S2000. That's behind the ABS sensor in the rear on both sides. Got your wiring harnesses routed behind it, just like that. And we're going to go ahead and get ready to put the stock bulkhead back in now. You can really only do that when the top's up, because this metal brace right there gets rotated in your way through this area right here to slide the bulkhead to get it back into its OEM position. So we can go ahead, do that now, and once I get that in, we can start working on interior pieces. Alright, so I just finished beating the bent piece back. I used like a little stake and cut an edge on it so that that point would contact the edge I was trying to bend, hit the other end flat with a hammer. But this is the result of it all. Ignore the dirtiness, that's from the dirty wood from the outside. I'll have to clean that up, but if you beat it back real nicely, it almost looks like you have a couple millimeter gap at most to fill with seam sealer, and there's no hole in the car at all. So I'd highly recommend doing it this way. It's going to seal a lot better, it's going to keep moisture out. Expanding foam will hold moisture in, and it's kind of a ghetto solution in my opinion. Alright, so the passenger side actually came out better than the driver's side I just showed you, so I wanted to take another clip here, but that edge is pretty flat along the edge there, and there's only like a 2mm gap at most that you have to fill, like I said on the other side. But pretty excited with how this came out. Of course, you can see the fillet back there that cleared the bolt head when I bent it back, so everything lined up really nice. And I'm going to clean it now with some alcohol, prime it again, and then I'm going to use lots of bed liner, and then maybe undercoat over that. You know, just tons and tons of stuff. I don't think I'll ever be loosening these bolts again, so I'm just going to coat the threads thick with all that shit and see how it comes, guys. Pretty excited about this, and I hope this helps you guys. All right, so for the seam sealer, I have this SEM dual mix heavy-bodied seam sealer here. It blends 2 tubes together when you squeeze it through this special mixing tube. And you're going to want a few of these mixing tubes here that you know, are pretty much useless once you stop pumping like a caulk gun, because they freeze up and the whole thing gets solid. You just leave the old one on there and then swap it out when you're ready to do a new one. But you want to do it all in one shot, so you want to make sure everything's prepped, dry, primed, and ready for this stuff. And then goop it in there nice and thick. You know, work it with your finger and get it nice and smooth, and then probably give it a day to cure. All right, guys, so we're back here a couple days later, and I want to show you how everything cleaned up with the seam sealer. As you can see here, pretty damn good. This stuff is rock hard right now, and you can see all the seams are completely sealed off. There's no chance of water getting back into the frame at all. And now that it's in there like that, I'm going to go ahead and I'll show you the other side too. The other side I think I did a little cleaner, but now I'm going to hit it with some bed liner, some nice light coats, and you know, get it all looking factory again under here. You'll see some rubberized spray. I did like 3 coats of bed liner on them, and then I did the rubberized undercoating spray over top of the bed liner, so it's pretty thick on there, and I don't think anything's going to cause any kind of rust or moisture to get inside to the frame. But this is just a good look at how well it came out. You know, from back here, you can see it if you look for it, but it's not blatantly obvious that it's you know, the car's hacked up at all. Definitely looks really nice, really clean way to do it. Let me know what you think. Leave a comment, like the video, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, and I'll see you in the next one.